I'm here with John Dustin, who's at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and getting the Order of Merit, one of the major awards presented each year by the Hall to someone who makes a big difference in the sport of wrestling. John, what were your thoughts when someone from the Hall gave you a call and said, "Hey John, we'd like to recognize you for all you've done for wrestling"?
I was floored, just totally shocked.
And did you think back about how the heck you got involved in wrestling? I'd like to hear that story. A lot of us have interesting stories on how wrestling became part of our lives.
Well, the reason I went out for wrestling is I was a 120-pound kid worried about bullies. And so I decided I was going to learn about leverage and how to deal with being bullied. And that was my fear of being bullied at school. And of course I was 123 pounds and I had no idea I was going to have this big growth spurt.
Right.
And my first year of wrestling I had a losing season, something like five losses, 4 wins. So I wasn't great, but I started to have success. And my yearly records got better, and I started to develop a positive self-image about myself. And that's the beauty of wrestling. When our young people can feel good about themselves, experience success, they change their self-image and turn themselves into whatever they want to be.
Now, were there any people, coaches, mentors that made a difference to not only help you stay in wrestling, but also become an excellent wrestler to the point where you were able to compete at a high level?
No doubt about it. Dale Thomas had an incredible impact, not only on me, but the state of Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. Dale, I didn't realize it at the time, I had a different coach as my freshman year. And Dale came in my sophomore year, and he was preparing for the Olympics, and he needed a workout partner. And so he got a bunch of us neophytes to hammer on, to pin us at will as he's preparing for Melbourne. But I didn't realize that he was also preparing me for 6 months later. I would be wrestling Dan Hodge in the NCAA semifinals. And I had no idea that all this is about to happen. And at the time, we didn't know what Dale was going to do for the state of Oregon. And the rest of the history is there. The number of NCAA champions developed at Oregon State, and the growth of kid wrestling, the culture exchange, and thinking bigger about the world. That's the legacy of Dale, is having the bigger picture of the world. So he not only did he change my life, he changed the lives of countless other people in the Pacific Northwest in particular.
Now, you did some refereeing after your competitive days. What got you out on the mat with a whistle?
I've always liked refereeing, and we would have exchange. We high school coaches among ourselves would ask each other, what style do you want to wrestle?
Right.
And we would agree among ourselves to have a meet in freestyle or high school style.
Right.
And so we did a lot of the refereeing ourselves, and I decided I was going to be the best as I could, and I became a FILA referee, and I did that until I had to give up refereeing to become an administrator.
We'll talk about administration. I mean, you have refereeing background, you had coaching background. What was your reason to get involved with helping run wrestling at a national, international level? I mean, obviously you were involved, a governing body of wrestling at the time was the AAU, and also, obviously you had to deal with FILA and all the people around the world, but why administration, and how do you feel you could make a difference in that role?
I've always had a great affinity for detail work, and that's one of the reasons I like science. So I wanted to go to the highest levels, because that's where you're going to learn. And that's why at that time, people, if they wanted to be a good wrestler, they had to either come to Iowa or Oklahoma, because all the knowledge was concentrated in those two states. Now the knowledge is widespread about how to be a wrestler. So you want to go to the highest possible levels so that you can learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. And it's like the old college professor who would take his seating chart and divide it into bands in terms of closeness to the speaker. So the inner radius were the most interested. And zone by zone by zone, the GPA of those kids within those radiuses would drop by zone. So I wanted to go to get involved at the highest level as fast as I could so that I could learn and grow myself.
Now, what things do you take the most pride of in your role as an administrator over the years? There are a lot of different things that you got involved in and made a difference in. What do you take pride in the way that you were able to affect wrestling?
I took great pride in the culture exchange program because it changed my life. The awareness of foreign culture, and Oregon's culture exchange program, they were the second state to start it. And I got very involved in that, got very involved then automatically in fundraising, creating opportunities for young kids to go overseas, most of them for the first time. There's a saying, a mind once stretched never returns to its original shape. And that's been the story of my life in terms of being a lifelong learner, learning new things, and then trying to spread that knowledge and motivate others, and how I was able to change the lives of my wrestlers.
Now, you helped with a lot of event management at part of your career. You worked with the Goodwill Games, World Championships, Olympic Games. What was exciting about having to present sport in an event sense? It differs than being a coach or referee, even an administrator, but you were involved in some really high-level competitions in a leadership role.
Well, the most challenging would have to be Sydney, because wrestling's not in their school system. So we didn't have a great pool of people to draw from locally. So we had something like 200 volunteer positions to fill. We had about, in the beginning, 3 or 4 paid staff, and then as the games got closer, you would hire some more paid staff, and you would need to recruit hundreds, about 200 volunteers, and then you have to train those 200. We invited the New Zealand Federation, and they sent us about 10 volunteers. Canada sent us about 10. The USA came through with technical staff that requires years and years of knowledge. And so U.S. Wrestling sent us key volunteers to run the Sydney Games. And that was an immense challenge. There's only 30 clubs in all of Australia, and most of those were kids clubs. So to pull the Sydney Olympics off is probably my most proud memories and good feelings. And we ran a great games, but the government got involved down there and gave us lots of resources to make all this happen.
Now, you've got a new project that you've been working on for a few years, bringing back some collegiate wrestling opportunities in Oregon. Obviously, the University of Oregon dropped wrestling, but you don't have as many college programs there as when you were coming up, or even a generation ago, with just the fact that college wrestling has declined in size, and wrestling's an important part in your native state of Oregon. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are trying to achieve with the organization that you're involved in there.
Well, in the beginning, it sounds like mission impossible to get college wrestling restored. It started off with 4 old-timers sitting down at the Multnomah Athletic Club, trying to figure out what can we do to make things better at the collegiate program. Because what we're starting to see in Oregon is high schools can't find the wrestling coaches. And high schools are starting to drop programs. And so the principals and athletic directors are between a rock and a hard place. They'd like to keep the program going, but they can't find motivated high school coaches. So we've had at least 10 high schools drop wrestling that once had wrestling at their school. So we have to do something to fix the problem. And a group of us have been meeting now for 19 months of brainstorming and trying this and trying that. We're going to, we now have we have our database of 1,200 supporters. We just now, the Restore College Wrestling Movement just now joined USA Wrestling. Actually, we joined 2 weeks ago. And now we are an operating division of US Wrestling. And that means we have then with us automatically as a fellow division the kids clubs, the cadets, the referees, the mat chairman, and we're all working together to restore college wrestling, and we're going to help these other divisions as well. But together I'm convinced we can do things that we've never imagined. We have to go into the communities, organize the communities. We are going to become the alumni arm of the Oregon Wrestling Association. And we're going to unify the youth of the community. We're going to unify the alums. We're going to cover across all those generations, from age 8 to 80, it doesn't matter. We're going to unite, and we're going to do some good. How much good? Only time can judge us. So
what you looking forward to the most this weekend? Just seeing old friends or sharing this with your family?
Sharing with my family, because we're spread out. I have a daughter in Japan, a couple grandsons in Alaska, and another daughter and her family in Illinois. And Bonnie and I live in Oregon. We're going to come in together, and then to be with such incredible historical setting here.
Well, congratulations, John. You're a good friend, and we're real proud of you, and I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Glad to be here.